What up, guys? Another Adonis review. I'm done with God of War, so I'm gonna go back to reviewing shit I've already done. And today I'm doing a VR game called Blood and Truth. It's a PSVR game. It might be for other shit, I don't know. Normally it's $30. Today we shall discuss, again, like I usually say, not really is it worth it. Well, I guess VR, could be is it worth it, because there are some shit ass VR games. But also, what might you possibly pay for this? Is it worth full price? Or is it something you should wait for it to be cheap if you're gonna buy it because it's half-ass? Now, first, to kind of go over what Blood and Truth is for the people who don't know, it is basically an action movie that you're in, essentially. I think it's anywhere from maybe 6 to 7 hours. So perfect size, I'd say, for fucking a VR game. And it's very linear. Even when you play it, you kind of play in a chosen path where you can just kind of pick to go to areas it tells you can stand in, essentially. And then you kind of live out an action movie where you're like a spy of sorts or like CIA agent, and you have obviously like a villain, and you have to thwart the villain, and stop the evil plan from happening as people die around you that you love, and you kill fuckloads of henchmen. Pretty straightforward, guys. So first off, we could talk about the graphics. Now, and we've said this before, if you've never played VR and you don't have a VR and you're watching this review, for I don't know why the hell you would be doing that, but you'd have no context. This looks like shit probably when you don't know the context of doing it. But when actually playing in VR, and if you looked at this game in it, this actually is above bar graphics for a VR game. Typically, the graphics fucking, I always say the graphics are typically are like PS2 level for most VR games. That's how hard the developers try to do it. They have PS2 level. And usually PS2 level in VR can still look pretty cool, because it's still cool to be in a virtual world. That's what the metaverse basically looks like. And as we've seen with, again, Resident Evil 7, that it can look, PS4 level. PS4 level of graphics are capable, but most developers don't do it, unfortunately. And so this one falls in the middle. It's about PS3 level, which is about the perfect level, where I'm like, nice, it looks pretty good. There's times where you're sitting there with people doing stuff, and it does looks pretty nice. And so, like I say, I'm fine with PS2 level of graphics in VR, because it does look better in VR. But that is definitely the least trying. The highest bar is PS4 level graphics, like Resident Evil 7, but there's only 2 or 3 games that have that. Luckily, when PSVR 2 comes out, they'll have the Horizon game and Resident Evil 8 coming out, which I'm sure will look amazing and give us that PS4, but you have to pay $500 for that shit. So fuck us. So all we really have right now in this game is really Hitman. You can play in VR and it looks pretty good. It's PS4 level, and Resident Evil 7. So most games, good graphics, VR, PS3 level. This is PS3 level of graphics, so it's pretty decent for VR. Looks good. As far as the gameplay goes, pretty fun. Like I said, you're basically an action movie, so you don't have a lot of freedom when it comes to what you can do, but you do have the general motions. You can dual wield weapons. You get all the different varieties of weapons, like machine guns and snipers and all that shit. And you fucking and the way you kind of load your weapons there is cool. The way you kind of reload and fucking cock weapons, and the motions you kind of go through, they're all pretty neat. They're not like anything extra special, but they're cool. They make you feel like a badass. And then, like I said, the level designs, all the level designs are they don't get that old, because they're all like a story, like like you're watching a movie of action movie that you're the star of. So you're always kind of following along this plot, and as it escalates and escalates, and the tension grows higher and higher, and until you get, and then they have different types of side missions, like you just saw, where you're in a car shooting at people. They do that, like two or three times, just enough to to have fun with it, but not overstay its welcome. So that's always nice. I appreciate that. And the only real negatives is just the typical negatives with VR. That sometimes it can be kind of glitchy and wonky, and where your hand goes, it probably just depends on the player and your camera and everything being good and high connectivity and shit like that. Obviously, I could always warn about the elephant in the room with VR, and that's getting fucking motion sickness. That's one of the toughest things. But normally, I'd say if you shoot for an hour, hour and a half at max a day, that will keep it pretty contained, which I appreciate. So going down to the final piece of like what's this worth, So typically you could find this I think for $30. I think the max price for this is $40. I'm not sure. I know that like the highest majority, if you look right now, you'll probably find it for $30. But you definitely can't find it for cheaper. The cheapest I think I have seen it is like $15 maybe, which is a steal. I'd say if you see it for $15, you want to try living out an action movie in VR, let's get it. That's the great deal. $20 probably the more realistic of seeing that for that price. Anything below 30, I'd say just might as well just get it if you're thinking about getting it. Worst case scenario, $30 isn't a bad deal, but again, it is a 6-7 hour game, so at that point, you're paying full price kind of for it, and you're paying for the novelty of it, which there is a lot of novelty. I think it's something that you could have a friend over and show them it, and they think it's pretty cool that, I mean, you could pay $10 to fucking play VR at Dave & Buster's for fucking 5 minutes, so to pay $30, for your own VR experience and this awesome little action movie might be worth it. You just have to wait. If you're looking for a good VR game because you don't have many, I think this is one that's pretty cool and kind of up there. So that's my review on Blood and Truth. I hope it helps you make a decision on if you should buy it or what you should buy it or what you should pay to buy it. Thanks, guys.